I became popular in StarCraft Chapter 201-210. Thank you all for liking and following. Please support me. I apologize for any mistakes in the translation. You can donate at Kasi Corn Bank 025-352-0310. Then let's get started. Chapter 201 Under Vientiane. Chu Yao didn't directly enter the next level. She thought of something, sat there cross-legged, and began to digest all the insights now. After the golden core, in addition to the daily accumulation, the sudden enlightenment was also a great success in breaking through the realm. She didn't expect that this Yuxuan secret realm would give her such a good opportunity. Standing up after a moment of silence, Chu Yao's eyes were full of sparks, and it was not far from the Jindan center stage. When she looked around, senior sister Bai was standing beside her. It seemed that she had just left the ceremony. However, senior Yukingza disappeared without a trace, and he went somewhere unknown. Seeing her appearance, Bai Yuejian smiled slightly, but is there a chance to advance? It's just a step into the door. Chu Yao nodded. Elder Yuking isn't here. I don't know where he went, but since the 3 stone gates are still here, he must not be far. Bai Yuejian looked at the second door. The first test is to ask the heart, and the test is the perseverance of the heart. Then the second test may have some of the fighting skills. Bai Yuejian squeezed the meditation formula, and the state was continuously improving. Go. Go. Chu. Chu Yutai licked her lips. She had tasted the sweetness in this secret realm. The two of them were fully prepared and jumped to the second door. Chu Yao's eyes blurred, and the next second, she arrived at the wasteland. Every eye could see the desolate and broken plains. On the plain, there were the remains of soldiers with broken armor, human bones, and insect corpses all over the ground. The dark grey sky hung at the end of the world, and there was still a faint crimson blood in the clouds, which was extremely depressing. Chu Yao swept her gaze around with her spiritual sense, and found that she seemed to be the only one here, and it was surprisingly quiet. This seemed to be an ancient battlefield that had been abandoned for a long time. This was a trace of the insect swarm battle thousands of years ago? But there was no sign of life. Chu Yao walked forward amidst the ruins cautiously, looking carefully at the mess on the ground. The daggers and long halberds stuck on the ground were all rusty, and half of the human and insect bones were buried in the soil. Above a height in the distance, in a corner that Chu Yao had never seen before, an illusion of an old man appeared. It was Yu Qingzi. He did not leave, but entered this level. As the lord of the secret realm, this little thing was easy. At this moment, he stood with his hands behind his back, his eyes filled with anticipation. At the first level now, he was very satisfied with the performance of the two people. In the Dharma era, such an amazing female cultivator could still appear. It was truly a blessing for us. However, this second hurdle was not easy. Who knew if these two people would have any surprises? Yu Qingzi stretched out her hand, pointing her finger lightly in Chu Yao's direction. On the ground not far from Chu Yao's face, a cloud of spirit mist appeared. She was still examining seriously, but this unexpected change made her heart skip a beat, and she took 3 steps back violently. The Zhuang sword was already floating beside her, as if she was facing a formidable enemy. In the mist, a figure slowly walked out. It seemed to be a woman, and her height was about the same as Chu Yao. When this person completely touched the mist, Chu Yao was stunned. The woman had a slender waist, long legs, short clothes and tight pants, and a high ponytail. This woman looked like Chu Yao. There was even an identical Zhuang sword flying beside her. It turned out to be such an experiment. Chu Yao pondered. She did not move, and her opponent did not move either, just like in an ancient battlefield that was quietly cornered. With a twist of her wrist, a spirit-sucking knife spun out, shooting at the woman. As she had expected, the opponent had used the same spell. And the 2 ghost swords collided in midair, causing a violent explosion. The realm is the same, the Taoism is the same. Chu Yao did not stop when he thought of a countermeasure. When he thought of it, the Zhuang sword came out with a long roar, and Zixia flew up, leading the way, a path of dust and smoke. The opponent also used the same method, and the sword light appeared beside him. The 2 Zhuang handles slammed into one place, half closed and sealed. The magic weapon was the same. Difficult. When Chu Yao wanted to use other methods, the other party started to attack. The magic formula in the woman's hand changed, and her figure was unclear. Chu Yao immediately realized that the other party used the night travel formula. Chu Yao braked with a stillness, and his spirit was alert to the surroundings. When there was a strange movement behind him, he shouted fiercely. Xiao Ziai! Xiao Ziai, who had been silent in the dungeon for a long time, blurted out and attacked her from behind with a cold air. Chu Yao was surprised that the other party had Xiao Shi too. The two little purples exchanged fire in midair, and the surrounding ground was covered with a thin layer of ice. Fake Chu Yao raised his right hand, and the Zhuang sword was pulled out of his hand and slashed at Chu Yao's head. Chu Yao pulled the sword back, raised it slightly, and blocked the attack. Just as she was about to counter, the opponent turned his left hand into a palm and slapped her abdomen with a terrifying aura. Chu Yao used the same trick, and after they met their palms, the two of them took half a step back, their strength divided equally. However, this ghost summoning and transformation technique was called Nether Vientian, and it was the main method in Nether Ju. Chu Yao had fought with people, driven out ghosts, transformed into palms, transformed into knives, swords, and created shields, all in this way. The higher the realm, the stronger the transformation, the stronger the power. The soul-receiving knife could be considered one of the traditions of Nether Vientian. From this look, the other party had understood the essence of his own Dao. High above the sky, Yukingzi watched Chu Yao and Chu Yao fight with relish, the corners of his mouth lifting like an old sea urchin. Su had been silent for too long in this secretive underground environment, and it was not fun, otherwise he would not have had the time to watch the two Jindan juniors break through the encirclement. Hehe, even if it was Yu Xian's disciple back then, there were less than 100 people who could break through the secret realm of asking. Yu Qingzi stroked his beard triumphantly. The test here is not just about fighting skills, it depends on one's skills. Ghost cultivator little girl, did you see? He was halfway through his words when he heard a bang from below. Chu Yao took out a pistol from her storage bag and shot at the other party in front of her. Of course, she missed and the other party dodged, but she didn't seem to be pulling out her gun and shooting like Chu Yao did. What? It turned out that she couldn't imitate the things in the storage bag. Regarding the details of this person who looked similar to her, Chu Yao finally slowly understood, and even guessed her origins, which might be related to the first level before. Oh? Hidden weapon. Yu Qingzi nodded. It's a way of thinking to borrow foreign objects. But this kind of power is fine to harm chi refining. Jindan monks don't want to use this. He didn't finish his words. The next thing that happened left him speechless. I saw Chu Yao take out a backpack-shaped thing from her storage bag and put it on her back, tightly tying it around her waist with an iron belt protruding from the bottom. She reached out and touched the button on her belt, and a remarkable change began to occur in her body. Chu Yao chuckled. Master, times have changed. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 202 Blood Butterfly Machine. The school bag on the back shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. A layer of red and white liquid metal spread out along the curves of Chu Yao's body like flowing water. First, it was the limbs, then the torso, and finally the head layer. Layer by layer, the package turned into a hat with sharp eyebrows. Chu Yao's body was covered in iron armor in a few seconds, and the red and white lines that detailed her outline, and the metallic color overflowing from top to bottom, were full of technological beauty. The astonishing blood-red butterfly became the most striking painting on this armor. Yu Qingzi, who was above the sky, widened his eyes. There was a reason that his consciousness had lived for thousands of years, but he had never seen such a magical weapon in a spirit suit that was like a transformation before. Chu Yao saw that the self on the opposite side was equally shocked in a human way. At this point, Chu Yao understood that the soul on the opposite side should be her past self. And the basis for the illusion was her own experience at the first level. But the illusion in the past only stopped on the day the sect was destroyed, but there was no spirit origin star. Chu Yao moved her body slightly under the robot. This was the first time she tried it. She didn't feel any discomfort. It was no different from wearing underwear. This was Chu Yao passing through Xiao Can's network to win the company's customized small combat robot. Ever since she fought the pterosaurs wearing robots in the underground laboratory of the Najixin company, she had wanted this kind of external robot for a long time. So through Xiao Can's channel, she spent a lot of money to customize it for herself. Make it into a set. Chu Yao's requirement for the robot was not to make a robot or to make the best robot. This blood butterfly mecha integrated the latest detection and control system, nanotechnology, magnetic levitation, high-strength memory alloy, and micropulse laser. It not only had both offensive and defensive capabilities. Strength shell is a cold and heat insulator, adding an oxygen tank can be worn as a space suit. This is better gear than more than one pterosaur suit. Of course, this also had its drawbacks. In addition to the fact that it was too expensive, the usage time could not exceed 2 hours at a time, and the power source had to be recharged after 2 hours. Haven't you seen me before? Chu Yao even put on a casual pose, crossing his arms in front of him. Come on, I'll attack in robot form. Unfortunately, the fake self on the opposite side didn't seem to have any reaction. It was probably just a layer of extra skin, no big deal. And the Zhuang sword was just a slash. Chu Yao wanted to test the strength of the strongest robot, and she didn't dodge, letting the opponent's Zhuang sword cut her. Bam! Gold and iron clashed, and a clear, resounding sound echoed throughout the empty battlefield. Chu Yao only felt that her body was shaking, and she didn't feel any pain. Even the point that was hit was as good as new. On the contrary, the other party was having a hard time. Chu Yao saw that her swordsman's hand was shaking slightly. Blood was flowing out of the tiger's mouth. The impact was terrifying. The fake Chu Yao immediately retreated, and after running for dozens of meters, he stopped. The magic formula in his hand changed again and again. And hundreds of curves of blood-stained xiao began to condense around him. In addition, there was a golden light flickering in the blood-colored arc, which was an upgraded version of Zhu Yuangkondeo's golden elixir. With a wave of her arm, thousands of arcs of light descended from the sky, striking Chu Yao, who was wearing a robot. Chu Yao still did not dodge, but charged towards these terrifying arcs. Under the attack of the arc light, a thin white light appeared on the robot, which was the defense system that had been activated at that time. However, this layer of defense began to waver after resisting dozens of attacks. Within the hood, a corner of the electronic screen in front of Chu Yao began to glow red, indicating that the defense system was in an emergency. It doesn't seem particularly strong, but it should be enough to save your life in a critical moment. Chu Yao picked up the formula in her hand, and a circle of protective aura emerged from the outer layer of the mecha, surrounding itself layer by layer, resisting the opponent's attacks. A mecha alone might not be strong enough. A Buddha might not be strong enough either. But what about a monk wearing a mecha? The fake Chu Yao on the opposite side also seemed to have trouble with her tricks often, and the formula in her hand changed again. Chu Yao could quickly tell that she wanted to use that trick to reverse the ghost gate. Alright, I've had enough fun. It's time to end this fight. Chu Yao raised her right arm 5 inches at a time, and saw a small gun muzzle appear above the tips of her 5 fingers. A dazzling light condensed on the gun muzzle. Go! With the order, 5 pure white lasers shot towards the opponent's body, and the air swayed and distorted where they passed. The fake Chu Yao had to stop reading articles and dodge them one by one. However, Chu Yao's weapon was not limited to this. She leapt and flew into the air with the same left hand, and the laser beams between her hands continued to chase the fake Chu Yao, and started to attack them indiscriminately. When she felt excited, the shoulders and shells on her back suddenly lifted up. And the tiny missile pieces spit out grey and white tail smoke, each exploding into a large crater on the mottled ground. Chu Yao knew himself too well. Since you want to fight, you must not give yourself a chance to breathe. It must be suppressed from start to finish. With the support of the mechanism, Chu Yao also increased his escape speed by 30%, chasing and bombarding the enemy with lasers and missiles, and occasionally releasing 2 to 3 long-range spells to attack vital points without mercy. Being cruel to others is not cruel, but being cruel to oneself is truly cruel. On the battlefield, mud flew everywhere, gunpowder smoke was everywhere, and the rumors of the fake Chu were also miserable. There was no way to resist the fierce attack, and the aura was instantly shattered, so she could only dodge and dodge with her body skills. However, she already had many injuries on her body. Yuanying in the sky was shocked. Does it seem a bit wrong to what I had expected before? This woman really had a treasure, and after wearing it, it seems that it can directly raise a small realm. Don't run away, why bother? I can run faster than you. Chu Yao still had time to talk to the other party, and the laser in his hand continued to shoot. Unfortunately, this fake Chu Yao might have just come out of the secret realm, and he didn't reply or respond. Of course, it's possible that she was too tired to deal with it and didn't have time for him. Forget it, my laser charging rod is about to reach its lowest point, I'll give you a good time. Chu Yao's gaze swept across the electronic screen, with his mind, many restrictions on the mechanism were lifted. Blood Butterfly's mechanism hummed in midair, and in the next second, she came directly behind the fake Chu Yao. This speed that exceeded the limit was almost at the nascent soul stage teleportation. Goodbye. Chu Yao under the hood of the car showed a big smile, indescribably happy. She clenched her right fist and punched him in the back. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 203 Immortal Cloud Domain. Boastful Fist. Combining Chu Yao's ghost cultivation base's blessing and the powerful auxiliary power of the mechanism, with the unparalleled momentum, he slammed into the fake Chu Yao's back. Under the violent impact, this extraordinary true illusion was finally unable to resist, and it was shattered into fragments in the explosion. Dust and smoke fell, and the battlefield returned to silence. Chu Yao stared blankly at her hand, fingers opening and closing. This power was much greater than she had imagined. In the past, she was a long-range reading type, but now, with the help of the robot, she could transform into a melee mage. Chu Yao put her hands on her waist, and after some operations, the mechanical shell was returned to her backpack. But she did not put it back into the storage bag for now, in case any more accidents happened. This battle seemed too easy, who knows if there will be any more strange things in the future. Just as she was still wanting to enter the battlefield, a blurry image suddenly appeared before her eyes, and she was teleported back to Yuanying Lake. Looking at the huge stone gate of the second level in front of him, Chu Yao blinked blankly. It's over? So fast? Isn't it broken that the old man kicked her out because she borrowed something from outside and thought it was cheating? Chu Yao looked around nervously, and saw Elder Yuanying's figure reappear beside him, hesitating to speak. Dare to ask Elder. Chu Yao boldly stepped forward. Did I clear the level? After that soon, he said. What kind of magic weapon is the spirit clothing you just wore? What grade is it? Does it have a name? Don't be nervous. I'm just curious. How can I snatch something from a junior like you? Good person, it turned out that it was broadcasted live just now, and this old man saw everything in his eyes. Chu Yao thought for a long time about how to explain it to Yuanying Z. This is a technology researched by heaven and man. The full name is Micro-Level Combat Power Armor. That is, Micro-Level Combat Robot. Robot. Yuanying Z twitched again. After repeating the words, Chu Xiao, can you show me your robot? Chu Yao showed an embarrassed expression. Senior Yuanying, it's not that I don't want it. For you, it's just that I can wear it. And after the fight just now, the energy was exhausted, and Junior was also seriously injured. Chu Yao's face turned pale. And she started coughing so loud that she almost choked. Tisk, what a lovely little girl. Yuanying's eyebrows twitched. How could she not know that this little female cultivator wanted to benefit him? You look injured. When he opened his eyes, he could see that the spiritual energy in Chu Yao's body was not too little. Hey, I can't let you watch for nothing. Chu Yao scratched her head foolishly. With a wave of Yuanying's hand, a small jade bottle appeared in the air. Chu Yao's eyes lit up, and she reached out to take it. Spiritual Ascension Pill, it's very good for Jindan monk's cultivation. Thank you, Senior. Chu Yao carefully took it, put it into his storage bag, and handed him the mechanical backpack on his back. Ling Yuan Star has limited medicinal materials. With the improvement of the cultivation base, the number of medicines suitable for Chu Yao and the others gradually decreased. Another bottle was won. Yuanying didn't care. To him, this golden longevity medicine was of no use, and if it was given to Chu Yao, it would be considered as clearing the inventory. He focused on the mechanical backpack in his hand, looking up and down. Unfortunately, I didn't see any secrets when scanning it with my spiritual sense. My power really can't fluctuate. It's interesting. Looking at Yuanying's appearance, Chu Yao felt a little confused in his heart. She still remembered that when she was searching for the Zerg sealing formation in the Baishan mine, she found a lightsaber powered by spiritual energy, and the hilt was still in Chu Yao's storage bag. However, Yu Qingzi didn't seem to be familiar with this type of psychic technology. According to what he had said before, the main body was colluded by the enemy during the Zerg chaos 10,000 years ago. So, the emergence of Shinik technology happened after the last insect swarm? Such words didn't seem far from the present in terms of age. If it weren't for my spiritual consciousness being limited, I also want to go out and see what the world is like now. Yu Qingzi returned the mechanical backpack. Senior Yu Qing, haven't you seen this kind of mechanical technology? No, at least in my lifetime, human weapons were not at a level comparable to the methods of the Immortals. It became true. She asked about the cloud calendar, which looked similar to the heavenly calendar. It could be said that the emergence of Shinik technology occurred between these two insect swarms, before the emergence of the celestial civilization, 2,000 to 10,000 years ago. What happened in these 8,000 years? Letting a civilization that had cultivated at the highest level end like that? Then what about Yun Sheng Tianzun? Where did the sages go? A question arose in Chu Yao's mind, and she shook her head helplessly. Even Yu Qingzi, who was in the Dongxi realm, didn't know, so where could she find out who was a Jindan cultivator? By now, she had finally roughly understood the historical context. Thousands of years ago the civilization of immortal cultivation flourished and ruled all directions. After 10,000 years of insect calamity, the monks gradually declined due to some changes, until they ascended to heaven and man 2,500 years ago, and became the Lord of the Stars. With the power of technology until now. The highest status of Fenjai Yuanxing stopped at Yuanying, which is a clear evidence of the decline of Taoism. Elder Yuqing, before the end of the Dharma. Is this world named? Feng Yuan Galaxy, Qinghai Galaxy, Qianxian Galaxy and Longdi Galaxy are all in the same star field. Except for the immortal cloud realm, are there any other star realms? Apart from the immortal cloud realm, there are the Shenglin realm and the Kunling realm, each of which has a Mahayana monk as a heavenly master. Outside of the three realms, there are only a few star seas and endless emptiness, with very few living beings. Chu Yao's vision widened, and he was stunned for a moment. I thought that the galaxy where the celestial civilization was located was large enough, but now it seems that their exploration of this universe is only less than 100. The immortal cloud realm is already large enough. Even Dongxi cultivators may not reach the end of their lives. Yu Qingzi replied with a smile. She still has a long way to go. Wait, I still have a question. Chu Yao suddenly trembled, as if she had suddenly remembered something. Such an important matter, why did I only remember it now? Senior, the Sea of Stars is vast and divided into 3 regions. How can monks communicate on weekdays? I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 204 Spaceship. If you reach the level of transformation, you will naturally have a way to travel between stars. After all, from the empty hole, you can travel between the stars. This means that as long as you reach the level of transformation, can your body walk in space? This news is much more important than the previous news. Senior, if the cultivators below Huashan want to go to another galaxy. Xiao Tianyu, what should I do? There are only 2 paths. This was trivial. One is to use a set of galaxy teleportation arrays on each star. The position between the 2 positions has been fixed since the creation of this kind of star array, and once it is confirmed, it cannot be changed. This kind of giant star cluster is generally in the hands of a large force. But how many forces are left? I don't know. Second, with the help of a magical object, the monks above the cave can refine these magical objects to travel around the world. Senior, how many people can this magical object hold? Do you want to transport people? Even though you said so, it seems that few people would bother to refine these magical objects. What, but? The mischievous boy laughed, and then stopped talking. Chu Yao asked again and did not answer. Chu Yao had no choice but to wait for her sister to leave the customs. The conversation with Yu Qingzi had solved the mystery that had been deeply entangled in her heart for a long time, and it was also a guideline for the future. In addition to secretly leading everyone to build a spaceship on Ling Yuan planet, she still had 2 more paths to take. One was to work hard to advance to the Void Realm, so that you would have the opportunity to bring people with you. The other was to look for clues about the teleportation array galaxy on Ling Yuan planet. The latter might be easier than the former. It had taken her more than 200 years to conceive, and she did not know what year and month it would be. Senior, regarding the zinc teleportation array. Before Chu Yao could finish speaking, Bai Yujian appeared at the second door. Her complexion was slightly pale, and the mana in her body was fluctuating. It seemed that she had experienced many battles. She did not have the time to ask Yu Qingzi right now. First, she supported her sister from the side and handed the Ascension Spirit pills to her sister that she had just obtained. There were about 20 pills in the bottle. Bai Yuejian took it, and the strong spiritual energy of the pill made her look surprised. Where did you come from? It's a gift. From Senior Yuking. Chu Yao's eyebrows fluttered. Hearing this, Bai Yujian quickly thanked the old man. No need to be so polite. When you're ready, go to the third level. Yu Qingzi's figure disappeared again. This spiritual energy enhancing elixir had miraculous effects. After Bai Yuejian swallowed it, the wounds on her body healed in a short time, and her cultivation improved a lot. She sat quietly on the water. She slowly opened her eyes, looked at Chu Yao, and said softly, "Sister, we owe this senior for this adventure." Chu Yao nodded. She understood what her sister wanted to say. Abandoning the elixir and the promised treasures later, even the luck gained at this level would be of great benefit to them. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world, and since Yu Qingzi promised the treasures, it was only natural for her not to do such things on purpose and to ask for something from others. Do your best. Although the seniors have something to ask for, with our current cultivation, it would be impossible in such a short time. That's the only way to go. Do your best and obey fate. After the two were fully prepared, they jumped to the third checkpoint. Yu Qingzi, who was hiding somewhere, looked at the backs of the two and nodded silently. When Chu Yao regained consciousness, she found that she was standing in a large circular hall, and the floor was made of an unknown material, which was smooth and flat. Above her head was a large screen with various edges and corners. The screen was filled with a dark emptiness. Chu Yao seemed to have seen this scene before in the underground laboratory of this Hickson company. But she quickly realized that what was tightly covering her head was not a screen, but glass. Under the glass, a set of intricate operating tables were neatly arranged, divided into 3 parts and arranged in 3 directions, left, front, and right. Surrounded by these consoles was a higher table, surrounded by countless light blue projection screens floating around the table. Chu Yao was standing on the table at this moment. Along the gap between these projections, Chu Yao saw many people busy in the circular hall. There were both men and women, all of whom looked young. The only thing they had in common was that they were all wearing the uniforms of the Cattail Company. What was the situation? Chu Yao looked up at the sea of stars above her head. She couldn't hide the shock in her heart. She seemed to have arrived at an interstellar spaceship. The current location was the cockpit of the spaceship. Why are you confused, Captain Chu? A teasing sentence came from my ear. Chu Yao turned around and saw Gong Xiaoran. Haven't you recovered from chasing Steel Dome Company yet? Gong Xiaoran still held a bottle of Coke in his hand and handed it to Chu Yao. This is what you like to drink. Don't worry. From observation, according to the report from the cabin, the acceleration of the jump just now has taken us out of range of the Qinghai Galaxy and Steel Dome. We will have to consider whether it is worth it if we want to chase after it. This. Chu Yao, who had been talking non-stop, was speechless. She couldn't understand the current situation. It's almost time now. Fortunately, we chose the right materials beforehand. Otherwise, the ship wouldn't be able to withstand such pressure. Gong Xiaoran seemed to notice something wrong with Chu Yao, and showed a worried expression. L appeared on his face. What happened? I feel that you are not in a good state. Would you like to go back to the room and rest for a while? Don't worry, leave it to me and King Yu. It's fine, I'm fine. Chu Yao took a deep breath and slowly calmed down. After holding it for a long time, he finally choked on a sentence. Where should we go? Where else can we go? Of course, go. Huifeng Yuan, seeing you look okay, wait a minute, I'll ask Binger to take you back to the room to rest. Gong Xiaoran raised her hand, and a blue projection appeared in front of her, and she tapped it a few times. What is this? Chu Yao was like a curious baby. Holographic touch screen. Gong Xiaoran still looked at Chu Yao with a strange expression. People who have been on the spaceship for a long time will have mental problems, and I never thought that you were the first to have problems, which is really a headache. What did you say? You have mental problems. I'm fine. This sentence sounds good. Xiaoran nodded with a smile. Don't worry, go rest, the route has been set. And you don't have to worry about anything else. Stepping forward. Sighed. Could it be that this final hurdle is what will happen in the future? I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 205 Like a Dream. Binger waited outside the door leading to the main cabin for a long time. Under her leadership, Chu Yao took the cylindrical elevator to the upper floor of the spaceship. Along the way, I passed a spacious cabin that could not even be called a spaceship. It was just a small town. There were shops, bars, and restaurants arranged on the left and right. Goods were placed on metal shelves behind hard glass. Chu Yao saw more and more familiar figures. Some seemed to be busy, some were enjoying their holidays. There were people drinking in the inn, and some were sitting in front of the game machines to gamble. The floor was clean and even, in contrast to the very rough roof. Pipes and wires of different lengths and widths were neatly strung together on the ceiling, and electric lights of various shapes were scattered about. The lights in the cabin did not seem soft, smooth, and the corridor was occasionally bright and dark. Sister Chu, we're here. Don't you have time to go and see your room? After passing the central elevator, the two of them arrived at the upper resting area, which seemed much narrower than the others. The hall they had just passed through, the metal hatches were all made of iron. Some of the doors were open. Chu Yao glanced at a small table, a wardrobe, and a bunk bed inside. The space in the spaceship was limited, so except for the common area, most of the places used for resting were in this dormitory style. However, Chu Yao's room was still a single room. As the captain, this was a privilege she deserved. After turning around a few corridors, they finally arrived at Chu Yao's room. The room was not very big, less than 5 square meters. From Chu Yao's visual inspection, many necessary furniture was arranged compactly. Chu Yao saw her laptop placed on the built-in table beside the small bed. There was a large window facing the door and on the wall beside the bed, and there were stars outside the window. Call me if you have anything to do. Su Binger smiled and waved her hand, and pushed the door open, leaving Chu Yao alone in the narrow cabin. She stood there silently for a moment, then lay back on the bed. She had to clear her mind. According to the routine of the previous 2 levels, these people around me did not really exist. Even though I had met my sister for a while, it might be an illusion created by the secret realm. If you want to pass customs, you have to rely on yourself. In the first level, she retraced the path she had traveled in the past. In the second level, she met her present self on the ancient battlefield. If the inference was correct, this third hurdle was the possible future. This Yuanying secret realm was indeed mysterious, and it could create a large-scale scene of riding a spaceship. Is this the method of the Dongxu monk? But how did this relate to soul-seeking? Before Chu Yao entered, she thought that this level was a test of her consciousness or spirit strength. When would this level end? When they returned to Feng Yuan? Or? Chu Yao turned over and sat up. First, let's confirm the true extent of this secret realm. If it could simulate some details, it would be a great opportunity for me. For example, familiarize yourself with the riding techniques and their use in advance, and even the use of various weapons to prepare for the future. How can you not learn anything when you come here? It was then that Chu Yao realized that she was wearing the same laptop as Xiaoran and the others on her wrist. After trying to click the start button a few times, the holographic projection screen I had just seen appeared before my eyes again. It seems that it is not difficult to use. Just like a tablet computer, Chu Yao also saw the Fidion icon, and she found Xiaoran's name in the contact list. Xiaoran, send information about the spacecraft. In this way, Chu Yao began his interstellar journey during the day and night of study. There was no switching of the sun and moon in space, and the spacecraft still used the method of telling time in the sky. The positions were changed, and most people worked during the day and rested at night. In her free time, in addition to checking the work, Chu Yao would occasionally go to the public to rest, drink and chat with everyone, and talk about the gossip that had happened on the spacecraft. She gradually became familiar with the structure of the entire ship, which was roughly divided into 4 floors. The lowest floor, First floor was the power area, including power supply rooms for various power sources such as electrical energy and nuclear energy. Year. The second floor is the core area, where the cockpit, ammunition storage, various reserve materials, and weapon launch systems are located. The third and fourth floors are the living and resting areas. The entire spaceship carried a total of 510 people, basically people from the previous base. There are also special hibernation cabins in the resting area. Some elderly scientific researchers chose to hibernate, some of them hoped to see civilizations other than heaven and man, and some wanted to wait for the next technological singularity and wake up at that time. The spaceship stopped to deliver supplies once, and the place was Clark Star under the Air Trade Alliance. The large forces that supported peaceful trade did not reject them. The Alliance chairman Mo Shu warmly entertained the guests from Alien Star. Although there was only one spaceship, it proved that the Cattail Company had a strong ability in interstellar travel. With the potential of the Cattail, it could already be counted as a member of the Interstellar Company. After the insect plague, several interstellar companies led by Steel Dome broke away from the control of the Alliance and became a true interstellar civilization. The other remaining companies were also given more freedom. If it was said that the Alliance of Heaven and Man ruled the overall situation before, each company would only manage a third of its own acreage. Since the day Steel Dome separated from the Alliance, the civilization of Heaven and Man had entered an era of warring states filled with official powers. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to say that it was the age of the battle stars. The old civilizations were collapsing and new civilizations were rising. The tide would pass. The same goes for the Air-Sea Merchant Alliance. Although this beast still obeyed the orders of the Alliance headquarters outside, it would not be an exaggeration to call it a star country with its strength. Chu Yao and the others had been in the territory of the Business Alliance for 2 months, and bid farewell to this star after their supplies were sufficient. The journey home seemed to be longer than when we left. This was because the exact coordinates of the Feng Yuan galaxy were uncertain. The relative positions of galaxies in the universe changed with time, so even if they had a dynamic star map in their hands, it would still be a troublesome task to find the Feng Yuan galaxy. Interstellar companies can travel between planets in different galaxies quickly, relying on predetermined signal sources between the two. For example, the Yalai Company and Muao Yi Company's spaceships are two small ships sailing in the sea, and Ling Yuan Star and Feng Yuan Star are two sides facing each other in the sea. Then, Yalai Company has already set up the two companies on the sea side. After passing the tall lighthouse, they can easily reach it by walking straight to the lighthouse and turning slightly. However, the lighthouse on the other side can only be seen by the Yalai Company's ship, and the people on the Mao Yi Company's ship can't see it. They can only see the blurry silhouette of the lighthouse. In this way, the spaceship sailed in space for nearly a year. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 206 Long Song. When a bright green planet appeared on the holographic star map in the cockpit, the crowd cheered. These Tianyin disciples who had left home were all in tears and hugged each other excitedly. After so many years, he finally returned to his hometown. Of course, it was no wonder that they were blocked by the Yalai Company. Although many people hated the Yalai Company, Chu Yao did not choose to fight it now. At the very least, they could not fight it yet. And if they wanted to fight, they would have to wait until later. As the president of the Mao Yi Company and the captain of the spaceship, Chu Yao applied to join the Yalai Company to send supplies to dock. Perhaps it was because they were all enemies with the Steel Dome, or perhaps it was because the Mao Yi Company's armed forces were too much to mention. Yun agreed to Chu Yao's request. These people who had been away from home for many years had finally returned to see their home again and set foot in their hometown. However, Feng Yuan was no longer what it used to be. Under the great changes of the Yalai Company, the company was full of loopholes. Chu Yao and her sister returned to the Tianyin sect. When she finally achieved her obsession to return home, she found that she was not as excited as she had thought. Looking at the Zongmen where people went to the empty building, the two looked at each other without saying anything. Chu Yao went to the original cave, took some things, and found Xiaoling. I went to those familiar places in my memory again. The same old place, but empty and uninhabited. She clearly remembered Yinzong's appearance that day and returned to the spaceship. As expected, conflicts erupted among the people from Feng Yuan. Some wanted to resist the Yalai Company, while some wanted to stay. Chu Yao finally made up his mind, I won't stop those who want to stay, but going to war with Yalai now is equivalent to shaking a tree by moths. In the end, half of them chose to stay. Chu Yao also gave them some exercises and used some methods to avoid Yalai Company's detection. She could understand these people's choices. What would happen in the future depended on their luck. There were less than 300 people left on the spaceship, and it seemed empty for a while. Brother Chu, where are we going next? Yes, where are we going? Chu Yao didn't choose a place going back, but heading towards the sky full of unknown stars. They became wanderers in the sea of stars, walking among the beautiful planets one by one. Some of these planets were rugged with icebergs, some were covered in strange grass, some were full of volcanoes, and some were covered in fog with poisonous gas. Chu Yao saw alien races that he had known before, such as the celestial beings with tentacles on their heads, the scaled lizard species, and he also saw many wonderful races that he had never seen before, such as the stone beasts that lived in the magma, humans, machines that had developed intelligence, giants that lived in the quiet mountains. Some of these races lived primitive lives of slash-and-burn farming, and some had developed advanced civilizations, no weaker than heaven and man. Naturally, the journey would not be smooth, and if there was a confrontation, there would be conflict. Fighting became commonplace, and the spaceships that had been repaired time and time again began to look ugly, like a huge lump of iron floating in the universe. But it wasn't all bad. In addition to fighting, they also absorbed the technology and experience of various civilizations. Occasionally, they would meet like-minded people from other races, and they would continuously absorb into this wandering family. The Cattail Company sailed all the way to the fairy cloud field, and this small spaceship that had endured hardships but remained standing had begun to become famous throughout the star field, and their footprints could be seen everywhere. It was just that their reputation was not very good. People called them the space pirates. This journey lasted for 30 years before it finally came to an end. Chu Yao and the others discovered a small, inaccessible galaxy in a corner of the star field. That planet was filled with the same spiritual energy and power as Feng Yuan star, and it was not invaded by insects. There were humans, but not many. There were only a few small states, and the technology was only at the level of cold weapons. Chu Yao led everyone to settle on that planet and re-established the Tianyan sect. Chu Yao, who was experienced in the power of science and technology, would naturally not go back to the old ways, but would invest in various advanced technological methods to develop the sect and the world. High-tech pharmaceuticals, modern Lingtian refining plants, maglev airships. Things that were once imaginations became real one by one. Everything was going well, and Chu Yao was determined to improve her own cultivation. After hundreds of years of retreat, she finally reached the state of being transformed into a god. But when she left the customs, she heard bad news. Qing Yu died. His aptitude was not very good at first, but after retraining, his access to the golden core had reached its limit, and his lifespan had run out. Chu Yao heard the news in silence. Birth, aging, sickness, death, human nature, even monks are not exempt from vices. She thought she could see through it, but when the day came that someone left, she still felt uneasy. But Chu Yao realized something. So she used the seclusion room to heal King Ye's body. She was obsessed with cultivating. As time passed, more and more people left. After all, not everyone had the same qualifications as Chu Yao and Bai Yujian. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years. She had already reached the cave and body. Her realm was getting higher and higher, and she was getting stronger and stronger, so strong that a single finger could crush the Yalai Company's fleet. The Tianyan sect had become a powerful sect, and under her leadership, no one dared to provoke it, and its power was getting stronger and stronger. The new generation replaced the old, the number of people in this world increased, and the sect was becoming more and more lively. But there were fewer and fewer people around Chu Yao. I don't know when, the only person around who could speak was sister. Until one day, the elder sister could not bear it anymore. Yao Yao, you don't have to treat my body like them. Chu Yao looked at her elder sister quietly, I will let you come back. Bai Yujian smiled and shook her head, panting. Chu Yao hugged her elder sister's body and brought her into the seclusion room. She arrived at the top of the cloudy mountain, and looked across the sky at the distant sea of stars. In the darkness, someone's voice seemed to come from the sea of stars, asking her from the bottom of her heart. I have lived an ordinary life and practiced Taoism for thousands of years, but now I am left alone. Is this the ending you want? No, this is not the end. Chu Yao shook her head lightly, her white hair fluttering in the wind. Her eyes were full of fluctuations, but there was still fire in her eyes. I will revive them. Idiot, talking about dreams. The voice was ethereal, as if the entire universe was asking her. A slight smile appeared at the corner of Chu Yao's mouth. I want to break through the Mahayana. If the Mahayana is not good, then immortal. If the immortal is not good, then immortal king. If this heaven still insists, then I will smash your sky into pieces and become the path of heaven. Every word was powerful and resonant. You are too obsessed. So what? Chu Yao spread his sleeves, and the Zhuang sword appeared in his hand. I, Chu Yao, have never regretted it. The sword light that opened the sky and the earth cut towards the sky, the stars shook and the galaxies shook. Jian Xiao lingered in the universe, crying like a song, composing a long and exciting ballad. A broken sound rang in my ears, and the illusion was shattered. When Chu Yao regained her senses, she arrived at a strange place. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 207. Draw a card. Sister has been waiting for a long time. This time she came out earlier than Chu Yao. Yuanying's spiritual consciousness was not far away, and he was now looking at the two with a smile, with an indescribable satisfaction on his face. Chu Yao forced a gloomy expression, as if she had not gotten out of the matter yet. In fact, she could not help but laugh. The reason was because she had already acted out almost all the scenes in the third level. No way. It was understood that Chu Yao had stuck to the first level after her past experiences, so it was very real. But this third level was more than a little fake. Unless their slightly broken spaceship had escaped the pursuit of the Steel Dome Company, how could the Yalai Company let them go if they carelessly returned to Feng Yuan? Not to mention healing the body to allow people to revive. Please, can I let him be reborn sooner? Chu Yao had played the ghost of her life-saving trick, and among the cultivators on Feng Yuan Star, there might not be anyone who believed in reincarnation in the underworld more than her. Let alone science, her spell had long been difficult to explain by science. Also, whether it was entering the Mahayana or something. Chu Yao couldn't figure it out. She would burn incense if she could transform into a god in this life. Even if she and her sister were the only ones left, she might be the one who left first, or the one who committed suicide willingly. Leaving her sister to be a widow all by herself, I would go and report to Hades first. With my unique skills, I might be able to deceive myself. Furthermore, some of the details in the secret realm of the third level were extremely incorrect. In fact, those advanced technologies that were discovered later were all empty shelves, and they would be aware of it no matter what they thought, and the words could be said at will. The combination of these reasons reduced Chu Yao's sense of transformation at the third level to zero, but she couldn't perform well, so she had to continue performing until the end. At least, judging from Yuanying's expression, he had succeeded. These old people might like this kind of crazy plot that I couldn't help myself from. Good, good, good. Passed the third level successfully. I really didn't see wrongly. Yuanying's applause brought Chu Yao back to reality. And she began to look around. The green mountains and green ponds from before were gone, replaced by rugged cliffs all around. It seemed that they had reached a mountain stream, and there was an oval floating platform at their feet. This platform was like a dinner plate that had been enlarged several times. The three of them stood on this plate, and there was a bottomless abyss beneath their feet. You can take the rewards you deserve. Yuanying stroked his beard, and Chu Yao always felt that his beard might need to be washed, to show that, give the corresponding rewards from the group of magical objects, so that each of you can take 3. Ah, what kind of card game is this? Okay, then I'll go first. Chu Yao took the lead, and after working for a long time, she couldn't wait. With this thought in her mind, she checked her spiritual sense down below, and after a while, she really noticed a movement. 3 waves of mana fluctuated, strong and weak. Get up! A purple light flashed in Chu Yao's eyes, and she merged the 3 waves together. Many people saw 3 different colors of light shoot out of the abyss at once. One was gold, one was blue, and one purple. These 3 rays of light soared into the sky, stopped in front of Chu Yao, and turned into 3 glowing clusters of light. It's just as I expected. Yu Qingzi nodded. Senior Yuking, what's the meaning of this light? Bai Yuejian asked. Among these magical weapons, the golden one is the strongest, followed by the purple, the blue is second, and the white is the most common. It seems that Chu Xiao did well in the first level and was approved by Qi Ling. It's really a card game. Hello. That is to say, my performance in the first and third rounds was not bad, but the second round was slightly worse, which might be due to the use of foreign objects. Then I will not be polite. Chu Yao licked her lips, then her thoughts changed, and she reached out to the blue ball of light first. Save the delicious thing for later. The oral looked terrifying, but it was actually very gentle to the touch. Chu Yao gently grabbed the thing in her hand. Let's see what it is. This is a long whip gathered together. And Chu Yao could quickly tell that it was a mid-level magic weapon. It turned out that the white was at the bottom, the blue was in the middle, and the purple was on top, so the gold was the ultimate magic weapon? Chu Yao and Bai Yuejian thought about this at the same time, and Bai Yuejian took this opportunity to ask another question, and after receiving Yu Qing's affirmative answer, the two of them were shocked. The best magic weapon. In Fenjai Yuanxing, even high-level nascent soul priests, everyone usually used low-grade first-grade and middle-grade ones. Even Chu Yao's origin sword, the Zhuang sword, could be said to be comparable to the Jindan level of the sky, but it could only be compared to the lowest top level when it was refined to the nascent soul level. The ultimate magic weapon could be called a Zhenzong's treasure. The yin and yang mirror that the elder sister used when fighting the Yalai Company's fleet was the ultimate magic weapon. Senior, this is the ultimate magic weapon, so you gave it to us. The two showed incredulous looks. What's the problem? Yu Qingzi looked strange. Although peak-level magic weapons are rare, but it's not surprising that you two are there, right? It's not a top-grade ancient treasure or a profound treasure that reaches the heavens. Yin sect can be said to be Zhenzong's treasure already. Using a small magical weapon to suppress a sect. Yu Qingzi sighed. Has the world collapsed to that point? Many Yuxuanzong disciples back then saw this kind of magical weapon. It's not eye-catching at all. Senior, I don't know the level of these magical objects. Dharma artifacts, magical treasures, spiritual treasures, ancient treasures, and mysterious treasures. Yu Qingzi answered Bai Yuejian's question succinctly. The two were speechless. Chu Yao understood that her own Tianyin sect might not be considered a small gang in the eyes of the former leader. She didn't dare to ask Yu Qingzi how magical this whip was, or wait until you get home and do your own research. Chu Yao stretched out her hand to the purple light cluster on the far right. This time, he took out a high-level magical weapon in the shape of a celestial globe. However, this celestial globe was hollow, surrounded by uneven arcs of scales. After Chu Yao took it, the celestial globe also floated in her hand quietly, with a star point in the center. She activated it with her spiritual power, and saw the center of the globe glow with starlight, but after a flash, there was no other movement. Chu Yao looked at Yu Qingzi with doubt, but the latter did not reply, but turned his attention to Bai Yuejian. Her elder sister's eyes were shining brightly, and her spiritual sense had already sensed this high-level magic weapon all over. There seemed to be 3 magic circles hidden inside. Bai Yuejian's fingers circled around the magic ball. 1 killing formation, 1 defensive formation, and 1 illusion formation. As long as they follow a specific method, they can work. Yu Qingzi nodded with a smile. This object is called Hillary Sphere. In addition to the 3 arrays that come with it, the holder of this object can also set up arrays on it in case of emergency. Chu Yao noticed her elder sister's heartbeat, and winked at her. This thing was a bit bland for her, so let's give it to the elder sister later, and then take something else from her. Finally, the most critical moment had arrived. Chu Yao looked at the golden light ball and stretched out his hand. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 208 The European Emperor. Chu Yao took out a small golden bag. The appearance of this small bag was somewhat similar to a storage bag, the fabric was smooth and soft, and there was a yin fish embroidered on the outside. Oh, it turned out to be this. Yu Qingzi's expression was not surprised at all. It's suitable for you, a little girl who practices ghosts. What do you mean? Chu Yao looked up and down at the golden bag in her hand, and there was no fluctuation of mana at all. Consciousness spread along the mouth of the bag, but the inside was also empty. That's it, a top-level magic weapon? Slightly inferior. Senior, is this top-level magic weapon just a storage bag? Chu Yao scratched her head. No, you tried to catch a small demon and put it in. Chu Yan casually hooked it, and a black figure appeared from the cliff beside her, and she stuffed it into the bag. When the wandering spirit was stuffed into the bag, Chu Yao immediately discovered a mystery. After this wandering spirit entered the space in the bag, it did not disperse into thin air as usual, but seemed to stand still, unmoving. Hi! Chu Yao's eyes lit up, and she reached out to pull out a few wandering spirits, which were gathered in the bag like before. Senior, does this thing have a name? What's the line on it? This is called a ghost bag. How much can it hold? I have never practiced ghost techniques before, so it depends on your level of cultivation. There are also other mysteries in capturing gods and ghosts, which you have to find out for yourself. Chu Yao's heart beat faster. Others did not know the function of this thing, but she, Chu Yao, was very clear about it. This secret realm was very understandable. If Yu Qingzi was not a little surprised, she would suspect that he chose it for her. As a ghost cultivator, more than half of her cultivation base was on ghosts. Having a special bag that can hold ghosts is equivalent to carrying a large bottle of tonic to replenish her mana, so she doesn't have to worry about her soul, energy consumption when fighting others, problems. If you can hold tens of thousands of people, you don't need to use other methods when you encounter a strong enemy. Just open the bag and slap your opponent in the face, you can sink them. And it's not a one-time thing. Chu Yao's daily routine can add a time tube in case of emergency. Thank you, Senior. After obtaining such a wonderful magic weapon, this trip to the secret realm was worth it. This thing is quite special, it doesn't seem to fit in the storage bag, so Chu Yao carefully tied it around her waist. She also wanted to study the other wonderful properties of this ghost bag, but it's not time yet, because her sister hasn't drawn a card yet. Bai Yuejian nodded towards her sister, stepped forward, and pulled her consciousness to the bottom of the abyss, just like Chu Yao did just now. Chu Yao's eyes widened because she saw 2 gold and 1 purple. People are even more than people, crazy. What is it, Huang? Chu Yao muttered in a low voice, but his sister and Yu Qingzi didn't understand the meaning. Seeing the joy in her eyes, Bai Yu stretched out her hand towards the purple light just like Chu Yao. This was a wooden fan with egrets and green mountains painted on it, and the gestures of the birds flapping their wings looked lively. As soon as she stimulated her with her spiritual power, those images became even more lively, and waves of impressive mana permeated the air. Chu Yao guessed that this should be a magical attack weapon. She didn't look at it much, her gaze still fixed on the 2 golden lights in front of her sister. Bai Yuejian put down her fan and pulled out a very long weapon from the golden light. This is a jade sword. This jade sword is very slender, it seems to be more than 10 feet longer than an ordinary sword. The entire sword body is a glowing jade green, and there are floating cloud patterns on the hilt. Under the stimulation of spiritual energy, the blade of the sword is filled with electric light, and there are the sounds of wind, rain, and thunder, which is unusual at first glance. Chu Yao looked at this high-quality magical weapon with an envious expression, but it was just envious. She already had Zhuang, and she didn't lack this magical weapon. But her sister was different. Since she had been promoted to Jindan, she didn't have a good weapon in her hand, and this jade sword was just right. Chu Yao was very happy for her sister. Good sword. Bai Yuejian flicked her finger lightly, and the sound of the sword reverberated in all directions. It's been a long time indeed. Yu Qingzi looked at the magic sword and a color of memories appeared in his eyes. This sword is called Qingxiao and it is said that it was forged by an old man in the old man's first year. It's a pity that the old man's cultivation has also stopped. Yu Huashen. Senior, I'm sorry. It's fine. I just remembered something from the past. Since this sword has chosen you, it means that you are destined to take it. Chu Yao took it out from his storage bag. He took out a few pieces of cloth string and handed it to his eldest sister, who took it and temporarily put the sword behind her. You have everything in your bag. His sister complained about Chu Yao. Get ready. Chu Yao chuckled. Hurry up, sis. There's still a magic weapon. Don't let it escape. Okay, okay. Bye. Yu Jian reached out her hand to the last golden light and took out a purple hue from inside. Red mast. There was also a vertical line on the surface of the spar, which looked like an eyeball, which was very strange. The two looked at Yu Qingzi, and the knowledgeable old man showed a rare thoughtful expression. It should be a treasure created by the eyes of a high-level monster, which can expand the scope of spiritual consciousness. As for the other mysteries, there are too many magical weapons in this abyss, and I am not familiar with all of them. Yu Qingzi pondered for a moment, then said, you can try putting your spiritual consciousness into it. Chu Yao slowly floated, a ray of spiritual energy entered this place. What she saw in the demon eye magical weapon made her body stunned. Under the impact of this demon eye, her spiritual consciousness seemed to have expanded more than 5 times. In the blink of an eye, she touched the bottom of the abyss and saw all kinds of magical treasures piled up on the ground. Under the blessing of the demon eye, this divine consciousness still had some strength after reaching the abyss, and it could still dive deeper. But before watching for a long time, there was a stabbing pain in her head. Chu Yao quirked her eyebrows and pulled her consciousness out. Yu Qingzi brushed Chu Yao's head with his hand, and the pain instantly disappeared. This thing is quite strange. If used for a long time, it may be affected by evil spirits. If it is not an emergency, it will no longer be usable. Thank you, Senior. Chu Yao bowed in fear. Well, these 6 magical weapons, are the 2 little friends still satisfied? Naturally satisfied. It is better to say that we are greatly favored by the Senior. It is good to be satisfied. Yu Qingzi paused and stood with his hands behind his back on the ground, his complexion gradually becoming tense. The performances of the 2 little friends in the 3 tests just now, I have seen with my own eyes. Whether it is aptitude or temperament, they are all superior people. You are worthy of these magical weapons. However, I still have some personal matters here. Chu Yao and his sister looked at each other. They were right. What should come is still here. Senior, please tell me. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 209 Demonic Crystal. This old man is a dead man. With the power of the ancient treasure in this secret realm, he was lucky enough to have a ray of consciousness that was still alive until now. If it weren't for the changes in the world, he might have been able to slumber for many more years. Time flies. The world has changed. The old man is no longer the man of this era, but there is still a passion in his heart. Alas, it's not enough to just look at it casually. Chu Yao and his sister looked at each other. Senior, if you have any orders, it's fine. As long as this junior can do it, the 2 of us will definitely do our best. You asked if there is a magic weapon that can travel between the stars now. Yu Qingzi waved his hand, and a green aura appeared in midair. After they dispersed, a small, exquisitely crafted wooden boat appeared in the crowd. It looked like the large boat that Chu Yao had seen in Fengyuan before, the kind that was propelled by waves and wind. This is called Xing Yin Zhou. It is a high-level spirit treasure, controlled by magic power. It is free size and can accommodate thousands of people. Now, this is yours, the 2 of you. Chu Yao's heart trembled. The spaceship she yearned for was so easy to get. So easy, it's unreal. And this is a high-level spiritual treasure. Chu Yao wanted to grab the treasure ship and put it in her storage bag, but she still had her senses and didn't mind. Senior, this is. Of course it's not for nothing. I hope you can use it, to find someone for me. Looking for someone. Chu Yao was stunned. There's a star map in the cabin, which has several small heavens, including Yuxian. Oh, I almost forgot. Yuxian star is now called the Ling Yuan star, has a small star on the star map, named King Hui star. Why? If you drop by on your way back, please help me find a monk called Angel Shiyan. Yu Qingzi handed him another pair of jade slips. If she is still alive, please give these to her. If she dies. Yu Qingzi sighed. Just place these jade slips in front of her grave. Senior, please remember. Chu Yao solemnly took the pair of jade slips and put them in his storage bag. It seemed like a difficult task. Whether they could find the King Hui star, it might have been 10,000 years since Yu Qingzi last woke up. Thousands of years had passed, and King Hui might no longer be something Yu Qingzi remembered. Alright, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Yu Qingzi waved his hand, his unusual eyes seemed to still be recalling the past. Senior, do you have any other news about this angel Shi Yan? After 10,000 years, it would be difficult to find someone just by name. Yu Qingzi nodded in relief. Asking this showed that the two people I still paid attention to, I used a secret method on the jade slip, which could indicate the direction. When you reach King Hui Star, you will know where to find Xian. I understand, but about this, the cloud vessel. Chu Yao paused. This is a high-level spiritual treasure. The younger generation and the others have only a small level of cultivation, so I don't know if they can be driven independently. More than enough. When Yu Qingzi said this, an unfathomable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. By the way, speaking of which, you must find the spirit stone that drives this Dharma vessel. Ah! Chu Yao stared. Is this empty? That's right. Although there are many magical weapons in the secret realm, the inventory of spirit stones has reached its lowest point. Dare to ask the elder how many spirit stones there are. Do you need to rush to King Hui from here? You need to use about 20 top-grade spirit stones. The same amount of devil crystals will do. Meow. It's hard to find low-grade spirit stones in this poor and remote spirit source star. Where can I find you 20 top-grade spirit stones? Chu Yao wanted to throw Fa Zhou at Yu Qingzi's face. This old man didn't have a sore back when he stood and spoke. But wait, what was a fairy crystal? With a thought, Chu Yao took out a square iron box from his storage bag, and inside was a white stone the size of a basketball that shone with light. Hey, you really have a devil crystal? Yu Qingzi looked at it carefully. That's right. Judging by its purity, it should have come from a monster in the middle of its transformation. When he saw Chu Yao, Bai Yu's eyes changed again and again. You have everything in your storage bag. Where did this come from? Yao only replied. Senior, what is the origin of this demon crystal? After a monster's strength reaches the divine transformation level, the demon core in the body will turn into a crystal stone, just like a priest's core that breaks into a baby. I see. She didn't expect this to have such a big background. How could such a valuable thing be in a small tribe of the Bugfire sect? But this isn't important. The important thing is that Chu Yao knows where to find Fa Zhou's energy. Alright, accept the main quest and go to the insect fire sect to grab the demon crystal. Chu Yao muttered something, but the eldest sister and Yu Qingzi still didn't understand. But this demon crystal must be eliminated by the divine Zerg. What should I do? Chu Yao started to have a headache. I hope the insect fire sect still has stock. Since you have a way to obtain the demon crystal, so I won't ask any more questions. Senior, about Hua Shen's promotion. Bai Yu Jian, like Chu Yao, had questions in her stomach, but after hesitating for a long time, he still planned to focus on the main point and said, can you introduce two juniors to me? If you want to be promoted from Yuanying to Hua Shen, you must pay attention to the word enlightenment. Enlightenment. Yuanying is a broken and condensed immortal baby. They will eventually be half immortals, and if they want to ascend to the heavens in one step, they not only have to rely on their aura and luck, but also find their own path to become immortals. To transform into a god, one cultivates the primordial spirit within the body. From child to adult, from human to god, just like humans, it is a long road, and only when you find one in your heart can you overcome the obstacles and experience the true path. Yu Qingzi's words were very straightforward. Enough, Chu Yao and the two fell silent in thought. And they seemed to realize something in their hearts. Senior, regarding the search for this Dao. There are 3,000 ways of the Dao, and the same goal can be achieved through different paths. Yu Qingzi stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the distant mountains on the other side of the lake. The key is whether you can truly find the turtle that suits your heart. As for how to do it, it depends on you. You two are optimistic people. Yu Qingzi shouted quickly, and an unrivaled aura erupted from his body. Chu Yao's mind shook, and the scene before him changed again, as if falling into a mist. In the blink of an eye, her soul seemed to have traveled across eras and reached its peak. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 210 Harvest. Under the mountain, a sea-like insect rolled over. Their roars reverberated. Above the mountain, a man and a woman stood holding swords in heroic poses. The dense swarm of insects was even more terrifying than any swarm Chu Yao had ever seen before, creating a suffocating pressure. Chu Yao didn't know where she was right now, she just felt that her mind was echoing with that man, feeling what he was thinking. The man's soul was bright and beautiful, his eyes were bright and his eyebrows were thin, he was Yu Qingzi when he was young. Facing the terrifying Zerg beneath his feet, he was slightly anxious and nervous, but when he turned his gaze to the woman beside him, he seemed to forget about the situation at this moment, and all the chaos in his heart turned into gentle indifference like water. The woman saw his gaze, looked at him with a smile, and glanced at Yuanying. Seeing that the Zerg was about to climb up a single mountain, the two of them hugged each other and kissed. After hugging for a while, Yu Qingzi's eyes were filled with determination, and the talisman in his hand could be faintly seen. And he slapped the woman's chest involuntarily. The woman's Hurong was shocked, and she opened her mouth to say something, but the next second, she was taken by the talisman to an unknown place. Yu Qingzi was the only one left on the mountaintop, facing the endless swarm of insects. He raised his magic sword and laughed loudly. An indescribable emotion rose in Chu Yao's heart, and his heart surged with that free and easy laughter. At this moment, it seemed that he was the master of this world, and nothing could stop him. Is this Elder Yuking's turtle? What I saw stopped as Yu Qingzi pointed his sword at the sky, and then disappeared silently. When they returned to the pavilion, they saw that Yu Qingzi's body seemed to be more transparent. Senior, your body. It's fine, it's been too long. Yu Qingzi waved his hand. Do you two understand? Senior Yu Qing's cultivation method is love. Chu Yao asked uncertainly. Yu Qingzi did not accept it, but only continued what he had said just now. However, this is just the old man's way, and it may not suit you. The fairy path is long, and the road ahead is not easy. What questions do you two have? Senior. Why did the insect plague occur, and why is it still a constant for 10,000 years? I also don't know. Maybe you can only see it when you reach the Yunqing Tianzun realm. If there's nothing else, the old man will send you out. Senior, I wonder if we can bring the junior to this secret realm for testing in the future. Chu Yao raised his hand. In half a year, my spiritual consciousness has just awakened, and I still need to rest for a while. Yu Qingzi waved his hand, causing a gust of wind, and in the blink of an eye, the two were sent to the teleportation formation that had left. Chu Yao seemed to have something else to ask. She covered her mouth and shouted. Senior, you have so many treasures, give us a few more storage bags. I'm afraid I'll keep you for a while. My treasure vault, you guys will clean it up. Yu Qingzi cursed with a smile, and a dozen storage bags fell from the sky and landed on Chu Yao's head. Let's go. Alright, let's go. Chu Yao happily held the storage bags in her arms. And walked to the teleport panel with her sister. After a while, the two returned to the original stone hall. Come on, sister, I'll give you one. You can choose the one that looks good. You're really not afraid of Elder Yuking getting angry? Bai Yujian muttered, but she pulled her hand to Chu Yao's arm. This one looks good. I want it. Let Xiao choose later. Hey, this time is a bumper harvest. Thinking of the harvest a few days ago, Chu Yao was satisfied. 6 rare artifacts, gold-grade longevity pills, a large storage bag. In addition, there were insights from that secret realm, as well as the anecdotes that Yu Qingzi told, and the method of advancing to the gods. The most important thing was the Dharma ship that could travel through the starry sky, which was equivalent to increasing the second hand to leave the spiritual source in addition to building a spaceship. As long as she could find a way to get the monster crystal, she could take everyone away at any time. She had already decided that after half a year, she had to bring Xiao Ran Qingye and the others over and bring back the magic weapon. However, it is useless for me to hold this armillary orb. Sister, please keep it. While walking with her sister, Chu Yao took out a magic weapon from her storage bag. In the darkness, the star dots that appeared on the magic weapon became more and more pleasing to the eye. Okay. I don't want to take yours for nothing. Just exchange this small fan. After all, it is a high-level magic weapon. Bai Yuejian's tone paused, and she said with a smile, it makes sense. If Senior Yuking's cultivation base is not too high, Shen, I really want to move all his treasure houses away. The hero also saw the same thing. However, sister, what did you find at that level? The two were in a very good mood, and after chatting for a while, they returned to the cave. Looking at the large hole in the inner chamber, the eldest sister lifted the armillary sphere. I have to set up a few more formations. I used to think about moving to the base, but now it seems that this cave cannot do it for a while. Give up. I think so. Chu Yao nodded. If there is nothing else, I will go back to the base first. Chu Yao was still thinking about the demon crystal. So he was busy now. She hadn't paid much attention to the insect fire sex madman before, but now it was different. She had to find out where the monster crystals in these people's hands came from. Chu Yao rushed back to the base without stopping, and kicked open Xiao Hua's room door. The girl was still tapping out the code seriously, when the kick on the door suddenly made her flinch. Can you be gentle? I've never seen you calm down since I met you. Su Hua stared at Chu Yao with her lips curved up. Beside her, Xiao Nan sat at the table with enough battery power, and waved at Chu Yao. Sister Chu, long time no see. Oh. Long time no see, Xiao Nan. Hey, it's me. Hurry up and help me find out the origin of the Bugfire cult and find some information. Bugfire cult? Xiaohuo blinked. Is there anything to find out about those people? After all, Xiaohuo tapped the keyboard a few times and started touching Mao's eyeliner in various places. In the wasteland. Oh, yeah, and this too. Chu Yao pulled out the demonic crystal as if it was a trick. Wow, what is this? It looks so good. After so many years, Xiao Nan seemed to still be a child. What is this? Su Hua had long been familiar with Chu Yao's tricks, and she didn't find it strange that Chu Yao took out a rocket from his pocket. This is... Chu Yao hesitated for a moment. This is a tumor mutated from insect eggs. Then this tumor looks really good. Su Huohuo took out his phone and took a few photos of Yajing. Check if this item is sold elsewhere. We'll buy it at a high price. Okay, I'll go to the black market to check later. Anything else? Chu Yao was about to ask, and after a few more words, her phone rang. Another roll is done. Please like and share. Thank you.